Hello everyone, welcome to the CEO Show. I'm your host Nick Vaidya for the CEO Magazine, and I have for you today the CEO of Elemica, John Blyzinskyj, talking with me about the big trends in supply chain management, where we see the intersection of cloud and big data producing some remarkable efficiencies. Elemica today produces some 250 billion in annual transactions, and John must have some deep insights that he could share with us. So let's welcome John to the show.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Welcome. So I really wanted to get into this idea of supply chain not being the so-called sexy world. We all think about strategy consulting and, the stuff that McKinsey and everybody else talks about, at least overtly. And that's what most of the books talk about. But really, when it comes to nuts and bolts and the profitability of a company, supply chain has a huge contribution to it. But most of the people don't know that, right?
That's right, Nick. So we at Elemica, we provide software tools for the Fortune 500 clients in the process industries, from oil and gas, plastics, chemical, rubber, agro industries. And similar to other industries, supply chain can really make or break a corporation's profitability. If the supply chain breaks down, that has a very fundamental impact on their business, and it can happen very, very quickly. So the tools that we have that we provide to our clients hopefully allow them to be able to plan and to manage their supply chains with the most accuracy and the most efficiency.
So things have evolved. Now we've got the cloud. We got certainly a lot of data, and we've got the tools to analyze the data. So I think supply chain of 20 years ago is not the supply chain of today. And I have some experience, not really with supply chain, but I've worked in areas around supply chain. I used to be with Dell, actually managed almost 40% of their profitability. And, at that time, Compaq was a big competitor. And, they tried to copy Dell's model. And fundamentally, Dell delivered its profits because of the model that they adopted, which is, just in time of sorts. So what has changed in these last few years with the advent of big data and cloud?
Well, so it's a very good question, Nick. So I guess about say 10 plus years ago, there was rapid improvements in supply chain across all industries, and fundamentally it was about improving the robustness, improving the efficiency, inventory turns, etc. A lot of that has actually happened across all industries, across all types of client sets. And now, so that efficiency is almost taken for granted in terms of it's a requirement to be fundamentally sound within your industry, to providing your clients with good service and product on time. So now what's happening is we're starting to evolve to the next generation in terms of what's going to be important for supply chain. So in the past, it was more about operational efficiency. Now, as we go in the future, the supply chain will start to provide many companies, their supply chains, will provide many companies with insights which will allow them to predict the trends or to predict a little bit about what will happen in the future, and to be able to plan much more in advance for contingency or opportunities which come along in a way that has not been the case in the past. So in many regards, a lot of the profitability that clients can or companies can look forward to has to do with how they predict what is happening in their supply chain.
So how does that happen? Previously, where the focus was internal, and if you know about negotiations, which I'm sure you do deal with it every day, it was treated as adversarial. Your vendors were sort of not really adversarial, but there is this two ends of the continuum where you treat your vendors and your suppliers as adversarial, and you negotiate on the price. And the other end is you treat them as your partners. And most companies are somewhere in between those two. What's the status right now? Where are the companies, and how are these two ends different?
So again, I guess if we look historically, there could be a lot of, shall we say, cost improvements that could be wrung out of the sourcing or the supplying of the raw materials at the front end of a supply chain. Beating up your suppliers to give you better prices, better terms, etc. But really, the fundamentals of supply chain, it goes from end to end. It goes from sourcing your raw materials through to delivering your product at the other end to your clients, and all of the manufacturing and delivery in between. So gaining visibility throughout the continuum, the whole supply chain, being able to sense any changes in demand in terms of mix, in terms of timing, in terms of product types, at the front end with your client, with the clients of the companies, and then feeding that information all the way back to the beginning of the supply chain where they source the raw materials. So in the first instance, what you were alluding to is how to gain financial improvements by improving on the prices you had at the front end. But really, supply chain goes throughout the continuum, beyond a sense in a way that probably hasn't been the case in the past, or not as accurately, changes at the front end in terms of what's happening in terms of market dynamics, in terms of your clients.
So at the back end, I mean, it could be supply chain could be going back to, if you think in terms of the F-16s and all, some of the parts are being manufactured in China, on which our Air Force is completely dependent upon. And oftentimes we don't know really what is coming from where. Is it still the case, or is that the problem you're trying to address?
No, so the fundamental the problem that we address and the value that we provide to our clients in our industry is around visibility through the supply chain and giving our clients total control, or ultimately total control over their supply chain. So it's not only identifying particular batches of product, such as the example you used there, where there was erroneous parts, so they can actually trace those back with ease at some point in the future if they identify a problem. But it's actually, as I mentioned before, it's actually seeing visibility through the whole supply chain and trying to predict problems before they occur. So whether there's a breakage or breakdown in the delivery, for example, because of natural disasters, or such as weather events, such as we've had in the Northeast relatively recently, but also in the future, as we look forward, analyzing the vast amounts of data which is inherent in the supply chain to predict different changes, even sometimes before they occur or just at the moment they occur, and then realizing and planning what that impact is all the way through the manufacturing and production to the sourcing of the raw material. Because identifying those changes as early as possible will allow companies to react as quickly as possible, and that could be the difference between making a profit or making a loss on particular products or a particular quarter.
Especially in low margin businesses where there is a tremendous amount of competition, I think that determines your success or failure. In commodities, again, people need to know really what's happening where so that they can predict the commodity pricing. In a certain sense, you're saying when you're dealing with commodity products or processes or companies that are dealing with some, large extent commodity involvement there, so they need to know. But this is sounding like a huge astronomical model. I mean, there's so much going on, so many suppliers, so many different suppliers when it comes to it, if you wanted to really predict it well. If you remember, some time back was this issue, I think it was with heparin or pig blood related supply chain issue, where they found out one of the vaccines, where did this actually come from, and they had to do some forensic analysis to really get to which particular village in China did they source that particular blood from the sows